So, Turbo obviously didn't help Power Rangers in the ratings department. They Turbo sustained their ratings long enough to keep the show alive for another season. So, when Toei sent Saban some like clips or whatever to show Saban what the show was going to be about, spaceships, spacey things. So let's make a space. Let's get ready for space ideas. Mega Ranger turned out to be a video game virtual reality technology themed Sentai. Oops. What do? We were kind of gypped here. But with the reduced number of writers and people working on the show and the reduced budget, when this is originally going to end up being the last season, screw it. We're doing everything in our power to make this season worth it, worth our time, worth the viewers' time, and send the show out in a bang. So following the Zeo and Turbo disasters, we got what is considered by a lot of people, and probably more people because RPM is not good enough to be considered the best season ever, but I've already been over this. Power Rangers in Space. The final season of the Zordon era, and I put final in quotes because I kind of don't agree that this is the last season of the Zordon era, but I'll get to that next time. So the season begins basically on the Samaritan planet, picking up where we ended in Turbo, where Divatox was informed that Zordon was captured, and she went to the Samaritan planet because Dark Spectre called her. So we pick up there, and we see the entire alliance of evil there. Zed, Rita, Machine Empire, Divatox. I think Master Vile was there too, but I saw one of his monsters from MMPR Season 3, but I don't know if he was there himself. So they're just throwing a party. Dark Spectre reveals himself and says that we have Zordon captured in a tube over here, and it's slowly killing him from the inside. They propose a toast, and someone on the far end doesn't drink, some dude in a robe. The new villain of the season, Astronema, says that he's a spy, and they try to jump him. Goldar rips off his robe and reveals a new Red Ranger that everybody can't believe because Divatox destroyed the Rangers, right? Well, the new Ranger gets on his glider and abandons mission because he's been discovered, but he knows where Zordon is, who has him. So Dark Spectre needs someone to go after and stop the Red Ranger from telling anybody about Zordon's location. Divatox and Rita fight each other over the position, but he gives it to Astronema because Astronema is more, let's say, not stupid. Cut to the space shuttle where the Turbo Rangers were, looking up into space, wondering where Zordon was. Alpha not being able to talk because his voice chip was damaged or something. And the shuttle ends up getting pulled in by the Astro Mega ship. They start walking aboard the ship after they get put in, and they accidentally bump into the new Red Ranger who thinks they're intruders and tries to fend them off. The ship ends up getting attacked by Astronema in one of her warships, and then make a crash landing on a planet. The new Red Ranger going out to try to defend the Mega ship, and the other Rangers go after him, trying to prove themselves to be, worthy. Well, they already did this after fixing the engine for the Mega ship after it was kind of damaged. We get introduced to the Quantrons, which are the goons of the season, which are actually really, really cool goonies. They're not Mega Ranger villains. Actually, Turbo Space and Lost Galaxy, when I sat down and thought about it, I believe are the only seasons with original henchmen. No, actually, I think Dino Thunder might too, but I'll have to look that up later. The 4 Turbo Rangers aren't doing very well, but the new guy is handling them pretty well. So it's showing you that they need their powers to beat these guys. After they chase him off, the Red Ranger demorphs and reveals himself to be Andros, a human. I got back problems. Sorry if I'm like moving around like this. I got a kink in my back up here. Andros, who is a human from a planet called KO-35. Apparently, he explains that humans aren't just from Earth. I'll take it. I think they had an episode of that in Star Trek one time. He says he doesn't work as a team. He works alone. So he repairs the shuttle and flies off, leaving them there. But Alpha's not with the Turbo Rangers. He still was on the mega ship and convinces Andros to go back and help them. The Turbo Rangers get ambushed by Astronema until Andros comes by and saves them. Gives them their morphers, the new astromorphers. The name of the morpher isn't actually stated until Dino Thunder, the Legacy of Power episode that kind of goes back over every episode. That's when we got the name of these morphers. They were originally just called the Space Morphers forever until Dino Thunder. Weird, huh? They morph into the space suits, which are one of my favorite suits in the franchise, might I add. And they make quick work of the Quantrons and get out of there. But while they were fighting, Alpha figures out that the ship and the shuttle were meant to become a megazord. Apparently Zordon had set up this whole just-in-case scenario where you'll see like megazords planted all across the galaxy or something for the Rangers as a just-in-case they need to go into space mission. And this was the first step. And so apparently Andros was a part of a plan to unite a whole other team to explore the galaxy in case it was needed. They formed the Astro Megazord, which is the first Megazord not composed of 5 different pieces, but instead of the megaship and the shuttle. It's a really good opening two-parter, though. It really establishes what's about to happen, what's changed. There's no mentor, there's no Zordon or Demetria or anything here. Basically, Andros is serving the role of the mentor and the leader here. But like I said in my Turbo review last time, I think space is a dual leader thing, and I'll get into that when I get near the end. So they decide to go to Earth to get parts to repair the ship. They get ambushed by Ecliptor, which is basically Astronema's right-hand man, and the guy just walks through them like it's not even fair. This dude is actually one of the better villains in the franchise on top of that, and I'll get to that when I get to the villains at the end of the review. Then there's this really stupid crossover with the Ninja Turtles. I don't think I need to go over this episode. Basically, there was a show called... I don't think I need to go over this episode. I'm going to go over it anyway. There's this one TMNT show that's a band worked on called The Next Mutation, and it was pretty bad. It only lasted 1 season, and it's kind of obvious why if you go back and rewatch it. It's not a good show by any means. And so this was just more of a promotion episode than anything. It was kind of surreal seeing Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles cross up. I wasn't okay with it. Just saying. So the next episode we get introduced to one of the subplots of the season, which is basically the Andros looking for his sister Corone. Apparently when they were a lot younger, his sister got kidnapped one day, and he's been searching for her ever since. With a locket with him and her pictures when they were children in it. He keeps watching this video over and over again. It becomes a recurring theme of the season of him getting flashbacks and watching this video and stuff to try to find her, see if he can find any hints. We end up getting one a little bit later. Skip all the way down to the Delta Discovery, which is the Phantom Ranger is on the hunt for Zordon also. He finds him on a planet with Divatox carrying Zordon around. He sends a distress signal hoping the Space Rangers will find it, in which they do, but when the time they get there, Zordon's already been removed from one planet to another, and they don't know where to look next. But Phantom Ranger tells them of another Megazord, so he gives them a key card, and Andros goes and unlocks Delta Megazord. We never really see the Phantom Ranger again until the very end of the season. And there was going to be a thing here where they introduced basically his backstory and what Phantom Ranger was supposed to be, but it never happened. There are a few rumors of it, but there was never actually anything confirmed, even from a behind the scenes thing. I don't think they even bothered with setting up a story for it, and if they did, they never revealed it to anybody. I would have liked to have seen what they'd done with this, though, because there's a lot of questions hanging over this guy's head, and we never got any of them answered. So later we get introduced to Darkonda, which is basically Ecliptor's rival. He's a bounty hunter who kind of does things for his own way, in his own way, for his own purpose, and he's a bit of a douche. While Ecliptor is the honorable knight, Darkonda is the con artist scumbag, and he proves it because they're at each other's throats all the time, and it's an internal thing going on in the villain household. He eventually convinces Astronema that he's worthy to stay on the Dark Fortress, to Ecliptor's annoyance, because Ecliptor's trying to convince him that he's not trustworthy, and Darkonda's like, yeah, I am. Ecliptor's the one that's not trustworthy, and Astronema even starts to doubt Ecliptor every so from time to time with this. But after their first encounter with Darkonda, Andros rewatches the video of his sister being kidnapped again and sees Darkonda taking her away. Oh. So now it becomes a point for Andros to hunt him down and get answers out of him. He ends up chasing him down to this weird Wild West planet, which is, it's literally a planet set up like an old abandoned Wild West town. We end up playing poker with Darkonda and a couple guys, where one guy wagers these code cards, whatever, that used to belong to Zordon. Andros ends up winning them in a bet, and Darkonda says, I'll give you anything you want for those code cards. Andros asks for information on KL35, and Darkonda admits to Andros, well, he didn't know it was Andros at the time, that he's the one that took a girl, and the girl is still alive somewhere. Darkonda eventually finds out that it's Andros, and they have a pretty good fight scene in this bar, when Andros gets the key cards and gets off the planet immediately. Finds out the code cards are used to unlock another megazord that Zordon had set off to the side for the Rangers to use. They end up going to I think it's a moon on Saturn or something, to unlock the mega vehicles. I forgot what the heck they're called. But they form my favorite Megazord in all of Power Rangers, the Mega Voyager, because the thing has a freaking missile launcher on its wrist. This is literally my favorite Megazord in all of Power Rangers. I love the Mega Voyager. They end up killing Darkonda out of this too, but they find out he has more than one life. Okay. The next episode, we get basically a sort of turbo crossover where Lightning, Cruiser, and Stormblaster are kidnapped. Stormblaster gets free, finds Justin, gives him a morpher to help save the Space Rangers. It's a really good episode too, even though Justin isn't one of my favorite Rangers. It was a really, really good episode to see that, you know, that Justin was still friends with them, and it was nice to see Andros and Justin kind of team up and whatever. And there's a cool little bit where Justin bumps into TJ, and he was like, wait a minute, who are you? I'm the Blue Ranger. TJ's like, hey, it's me. Wait a minute, you're blue now? Yeah, I'm blue now. Cool little stuff like that. So we end up learning later that there is a sixth Ranger. In the previous episode where Ashley and Astronema basically got like their bodies switched, well, not switched, but their appearance switched to look like each other, which is kind of funny because Astronema in that episode says, I don't want to be a ranger. You don't want to be a ranger, huh? At the end of the episode, we see Andros looking in a like a hidden room in the engine room. When the ship gets attacked and put down, the other Rangers end up finding this room and finding a Silver Ranger inside of the cryogenic tube. Andros reveals that it's his best friend Zane, who is like his partner in crime when KO-35 was ambushed, and basically Zane took a hit that would have killed Andros more than likely, and it put Zane in critical condition. So he put him in a cryogenic tube to try to keep him alive in the hope that Zane will eventually recover. But he's been in there for a couple years, for 2 years. So basically, he's been in there through Zeo and Turbo. So basically, let's just say this incident happened sometime during the end of Mighty Morphin, just to put that in perspective. So basically, Andros has been fighting this war for a while now. Maybe he's been around just as long as the Mighty Morphin Rangers. He just became important to the rest of the Power Rangers universe during this episode, during this season. So a monster that they basically brought a sample of that ended up turning into a monster starts destroying the ship along with a bunch of sand people from Star Wars. It ends up causing the cryogenic tube to go, or Zane to go flatline. Basically, he's dead. This breaks Andros down. He starts wailing on these monsters, but apparently there was a shock or something that helped Zane get back up. He comes out and makes Swiss cheese of the monster of the day. Zane is... he's smug. He's kind of like the lovable dickwad. He's a troll. He loves playing pranks on people. He's kind of got a snarky attitude to him, but he's the life of the party at the same time. Zane is a pretty cool Sixth Ranger, though. He doesn't really change much. One of the more underdeveloped Sixth Rangers in the franchise, but he's just one of those characters, kind of like Zack and MMPR, that you just love him. You can't hate him, like Ziggy and Bridge. So we find out that Zane has a morphing problem. That when he was in the tube, he was still morphed in the tube, and because of this, he had like basically energy seeping out of him from being morphed for so long. So it basically caused like some weird short circuit connection to the morphing grid that caused him to unable to keep his morph for longer than 2 minutes or something. So he ends up getting that problem fixed by having his morpher shocked with a lightning bolt, and he gets his powers fully restored. They end up finding rebels of KO-35 on a desert planet when they were looking for Zordon. And after they find out that Dark Kondo was basically like running the whole thing, kind of leading to believe that the Rangers were evil, Zane decides to stay with them and help them through, hoping that they can eventually find their way to KO-35 again. There's an episode in between this one and the next episode, which is an important plot point episode called Always a Chance, which is when Adam comes back to help Carlos after he goes through some doubt issues. Now, it's kind of hit and miss, but there is some things with Carlos having, hot-headed moments and doing things blindly, and I think this was the tipping point. Like, there was an episode earlier where Andros went back to KO-35 to try to find his sister. The first episode happened, and Carlos kind of stupidly went after him, got hurt, was really injured, went back to try to fight. So we've basically seen Carlos be boneheaded here. And he accidentally struck Cassie and injured her shoulder. And now basically Carlos has doubts. So Adam helps him up, tries to train him, and Carlos basically quits. But there's a question that he brings up to Alpha that says, well, I still got my Mighty Morphin Morpher here with the Mastodon coin in it. Do you think this thing still works? It's still damaged from what happened during Season 2, or the beginning of Season 3. But when Adam tries to fight out, or when Carlos is getting attacked by some of the Quantrons, he ends up morphing into Black Ranger. But it's a very unstable connection to the morphing grid as he keeps unmorphing and remorphing. And it's obviously hurting him. And saying that he needs to be on the team, he ends up... Carlos gets his morpher back and rejoins the team. It's a really nice episode just to see, well, Adam back, because Adam was was probably my favorite of the second wave of Mighty Morphin Rangers. And plus seeing the old Mighty Morphin suit back was really nice too. And it was a really good episode for Carlos. So the next episode is when things start to get interesting. Andros goes into a fight with Astronomer. I'm cutting to the end of the episode. This is when things get important. He ends up slicing this locket off of Astronomer's neck, and he looks at it, and he realizes it's the exact same locket that Andros has. Yes, Astronomer is Andros' long-lost sister, Corone. She doesn't necessarily buy it at first, but when she starts to think about it, the more it makes sense to her. So she's kind of like dazily walks through her routines, but I'm trying to figure out how I want to word this next sentence. Astronomer tells Andros to meet up somewhere so they can talk about it. She ends up destroying the monster that was kicking Andros around and says, I know where Zordon is and I can help you find him. So he brings Astronomer on board the megaship, and the other 4 Rangers are dumbfounded that Andros did this. And I don't blame him. It's kind of a risky move and very emotional. I could get the Rangers killed. So this goes to my point of TJ being a second leader for this group. He says that we're only doing this if you tie her up, and we keep an eye on her while we do this. So they end up going to the planet where Zordon supposedly is. And they manage to get through the barrier because of Astronomer. They don't think it's safe, and TJ says we need to abandon this mission because it feels like a trap. They end up crashing, and Astronomer's gone. And so they're all saying that, yeah, see, Andros, he was leading us into a trap. So they end up finding Andros. They end up finding Andros. They find a Zordon in the jungle somewhere, but it's another trap by Dark Spectre to try to lead the Rangers to their doom. But Astronomer didn't know about this. Or did she? She tells Quantrons to capture the Rangers and kicks Darkonda. I keep getting the Dark Spectre and Darkonda's name mixed up a lot because they're so similar. Kicking Darkonda around to try to prove herself to Dark Spectre. But when Dark Spectre leaves, she turns on the Quantrons and Darkonda. See, I almost said Dark Spectre again. Turns on Darkonda, proving that she was actually on their side. And go on to my point of Ecliptor, even though she was basically betraying the evil side and the alliance of evil, Ecliptor told the Rangers to take care of her. Interesting, huh? So they head off to the megaship Astronomer Corone at this point. Really sad that they had to leave Ecliptor behind. Ecliptor gets taken away, and Corone is with the Rangers now. But Dark Spectre decides to send an asteroid to Earth to try to, distract the Rangers and destroy them, trying to get Corone back. Corone says that the only way I can stop this asteroid is if you let me get back on the Dark Fortress and I can shut it down from the inside. Andros doesn't want her to go because he doesn't want to lose her again. But they say that's the only way, so she goes. She ends up getting kidnapped by Ecliptor, who has been basically digitally mind-controlled by Darkonda as order from Dark Spectre to make sure that Ecliptor would never betray them again, because Ecliptor was basically siding with Astronomer at that point when Astronomer was leaving with the Rangers. He was defending Astronomer from the Quantrons and Darkonda. So basically Ecliptor was loyal to Corone. So I bet you if Darkonda didn't get his hands on Ecliptor, would Ecliptor have joined the Rangers? Interesting to think about, isn't it? Andros is devastated, but they have to stop the asteroid. And all 3 Megazords, the Mega Voyager, Astro Megaship, and Delta Megazord, can't stop it until Zane comes back with the Mega Winger, his own Zord, and they manage to push the asteroid out of Earth's orbit, or out of Earth's path just enough to make the asteroid miss. So, with the Earth saved, Andros and Zane go to the Dark Fortress to try to find Corone. When they find her, she's a Borg. No, she has digital implants on her now to where she's completely loyal to Dark Spectre. Andros is really kicking himself now for letting her go back, but they abandon mission and make it back to the megaship in one piece. So now that all of the good part of Corone that was gone is gone, she is completely insane. All about being pure evil and wanting to take over everything for herself. So she ends up creating and going through with a really, really genius plan. Kill Dark Spectre with a source that could also kill the Rangers. I want to become the Queen of Evil. Dark Spectre needs to go, and I need the Rangers gone also. So how do I do this? Introduce the Psycho Rangers, probably one of my favorite villains in the Power Rangers franchise. Basically, they're evil Power Rangers whose energy is pulled directly from Dark Spectre. So the more they fight, the more energy they use. And that energy being Dark Spectre. So the more they fight, the weaker he gets. But these Psychos are much stronger than the Space Rangers are. And in their first encounter, the Psychos drain their memories, basically, to where they know how each Ranger fights. So now Andros can't beat Psycho Red, TJ can't beat Psycho Blue, and so on and so forth. And it's a really genius plan, too. The Psychos push the Space Rangers to their limit, and then Corone or Astronema pulls them out. So they don't destroy the Space Rangers, but just enough to get their point across. And they would keep pulling them back until enough of Dark Spectre's energy was drained to where she could destroy Dark Spectre, and then she would just let the Psychos kill the Space Rangers. Kill two birds with one stone. It's a really smart plan. Only problem is, they're called the Psycho Rangers for a reason. They are psychos. They are insane. They are literally obsessed with killing their counterpart, to the extent where they start getting irritated with Astronema for pulling them out of situations where they could kill the Space Rangers. This ends up leading Psycho Pink and Psycho Yellow to do whatever they want. They end up getting so frustrated that they leave and kidnap Ashley as a plan by Psycho Pink. The Psycho Yellow is mad that they didn't, or Psycho Pink is mad that they didn't kidnap Cassie. So Psycho Pink basically kidnaps Ashley from Psycho Yellow, saying that I will give you her if we kidnap Pink. And Psycho Yellow's like, no, you will give me Yellow Ranger, and I will kill her, and then we will get Pink. So basically, they're both chasing after Ashley while beating each other up. See what I mean by them being psychos? They're willing to kill each other just to kill their Ranger counterpart. This ends up backfiring when they kill Psycho Pink at the end of the episode. Now to another episode in which my point on TJ being a second leader comes in. 5 of a Kind is a really good episode. TJ realizes that, well, I can't beat Psycho Blue, you can't beat Psycho Red, but maybe I can beat Psycho Red and you can beat Psycho Blue, Andros. So they do this plan where they try to mix the Rangers up, and it does pretty fine job. And so the Psychos end up switching the colors back, and TJ gets really injured. He goes back and watches footage of the fight. When the TV goes black and white on him, he can't tell which is which. Gives TJ the brilliant idea of, well, if we can't play mix and match, let's just blind them. Make all of the Space Rangers blue, and then go after the Psychos. And it works very well. The Psycho Blue is annoyed because all of them are blue, but he only knows one of them is blue. And then Psycho Yellow, Black, and Red are irritated because they can't find their respective Space Ranger to beat up on. So they're all just derping around until Psycho Silver shows up. And this is awkward because, oh, it's Zane. It's Zane. And they tried to get a way to sneak into the Psychos even closer and screw with their heads. TJ and Zane end up killing Psycho Blue. Couple episodes later, they get into a final fight with a Psycho Red, Black, and Yellow, where they basically control the Well, they basically take the Mega Voyager, but they also get destroyed. They take the Mega Voyager the episode before, I believe, and then they destroy them the next episode. So Secret City happens. The Psychos aren't dead. They're still alive, but they can't. They're ghosts. So there's this thing called Secret City where Andros is basically kidnapping people, turning them into data cards to use them as monsters. Andros and Carlos get sucked in by accident, and the other Rangers go in to try to take the dome down so they can morph. The battleizer that Andros got with the Delta Megazord, which is how he controlled it, has 3 settings on it. One was to control like a battleizer mode, which is like a powered up mode where he powers up his punches. 2 is to control the Delta Megazord. 3 was never used. This girl that Carlos knew, hair on my tongue, presses 3 and it activates the first battleizer in Power Rangers. It's basically like a wing jetpack thing for Andros to use. They end up destroying the monster behind that was kidnapping everybody. But the Rangers get sucked into the thing and turn into data cards. The Psychos are ticked, so they go into the machine through the in card slot, and it manages to materialize them back into beings. They kick Ecliptor around, and they have to bring the Rangers back. And they go for another all-out brawl between the Space Rangers and the Psychos. Zane restores all of the people that return into data cards, and turns the Psychos into data cards also after the Rangers lured them in and put them under the beam. So the Psychos are data cards. Okay. We'll never hear from them again, right? Right. So the next episode is actually pretty funny. They capture the Astro Mega ship in a web that the Rangers can't get into, and they can't morph because they're cut off from the power. Ecliptor goes into the Mega ship trying to find the location of the Mega Voyager. So who's there to stop him? Alpha. Alpha versus Ecliptor. And this is really funny, seeing Alpha and Deca basically sabotage everything and get in Ecliptor's way. And Alpha and Deca being the main computer of the Megaship, actually do a really good job of holding him off. But he ends up finding the location of the Mega Voyager and goes after it. Ends up getting like a powered up form or something where he makes him red. Zane hunts him down and goes into an all-out brawl with them. The Rangers eventually catch up, and the Delta Megazord is destroyed by Ecliptor, but they manage to knock Ecliptor down a notch. But we're down a Megazord. The next episode goes over something that I'm going to talk about when I get to Ashley's character a little bit, is Ashley and Andros slowly start to become a thing as the season goes along. And this episode shows them going on a date, and they almost get run over by a Hummer. It ends up taking all of the Rangers and sending them to an alternate, to like another planet or something, where this thing turns into a monster and destroys the Mega Voyager at the end of the episode. Sad day. So we're down to just the Astro Megazord and the Delta Winger. Mega Winger. Mega Winger? Mega Winger. Bye-bye, Mega Voyager. So remember that Millennium Message thing that was brought up in Turbo when the Blue Centurion showed up? Zed, Rita, Mondo, all teaming up to take over the Earth? Well, the Millennium Message has been sent out by Dark Spectre. The whole shebang is ready to go. Launch a full-scale invasion. Rita and Zed basically attack Triforia, putting Gold Ranger in a pickle. Blue Centurion and Phantom Ranger get attacked by Mondo and the Machine Empire, and then Divatox attacks Aquitar and putting the Alien Rangers in a pickle. With Dark Spectre's still weak from the Psycho Rangers thing. Dark Conda, there we go. I'm slowly getting it. Dark Conda says, well, I've only got 1 life left. He had 9. He's down to 1 at this point because he keeps getting blown up by everybody in sight. Says, here's my chance to take down Dark Spectre and rule the universe. He takes his planet-busting bomb thing that Astronomo is working on to blow up Earth and shoots it at Dark Spectre, but Dark Spectre sees Darkonda. He calls him a traitor before he eats him, and they both blow up. Astronomo, with Zordon on the Dark Fortress now, witnesses Astronomo become the Queen of Evil. Divatox gets very annoyed at this, which is kind of funny to see her rage. So she leads a charge on Earth, and the Rangers are getting their butts kicked, and they can't do anything about it. Astronomo says, we'll give you 1 day for the Rangers to reveal yourselves and surrender, or else we'll blow this planet up. Great. They think about it overnight, saying, we can't put the people of Earth in danger. We have to give ourselves up. Andros still thinks he can break through to Corone. The other Rangers say, don't, it's a lost cause, just don't bother with it. But he manages to sneak off right before Ashley and him have a little romantic moment, not involving kissy-kissy. Needed the kissy-kissy. I kind of say this at the end of Time Force, too, but they need the kissy-kissy. I don't know what this is, don't ask. Ow. Ow, that actually kind of hurt. I hurt myself reviewing something. Where's my life going? This is what I'm doing with my life. I'm hurting myself on YouTube. So he heads towards the Dark Fortress to try to convince Corone to stop. The Rangers, before they reveal themselves, Bulk and Skull basically pull a I'm Spartacus moment here to protect the Rangers' identity. I'll talk about Bulk and Skull here at the end because I haven't talked about him much from Mighty Morphin through Turbo. But I will talk about him at the end of this because they do have a lot of development over the entire Zordon era. So she threatens to kill everybody after that. And TJ, Ashley, Carlos, Cassie, and Zane end up revealing themselves to everybody and morphing, fighting all the Quantrons and stuff, while Bulk and Skull lead the charge for the actual non-Rangers. It's a really good scene by those two. Meanwhile, in the Dark Fortress, Andros leads a decoy, moving all the Quantrons and Ecliptor out of the main room, and Andros goes in to try to find Corone, locking the door behind him. He finds Zordon in there, stunned and happy, but comes to a grim realization when Zordon tells him that everything is doomed. We're screwed, basically. The only way you can stop this is by killing me, and my energy will spread across the galaxy, killing the entire Alliance of Evil. That's what I'm going to assume it is, because they're still evil after this season. Killing the entire Alliance of Evil. Andros is about to do it, but can't go through with it, saying that Zordon's asking too much of him. Can you blame him? I mean, even if that was the only way, that would be a hard thing to do, killing Zordon. So Astronema comes in and basically tosses Andros around like a rag doll. With Andros trying to convince her to snap out of it. She basically points a finishing blow at Andros, and he takes his spiral saber and reflects a blast back at her, knocking her out. Andros thought he killed her. Ecliptor manages to come in and gets saddened that she's down. So now, instead of Ecliptor trying to, defend the mission and stop him from freeing Zordon, he goes after Andros because he supposedly killed Astronema. Goes to show you where Ecliptor's loyalty lies. And a really good fight scene. I mean, a really good sword fight between Andros and Ecliptor. With Andros winning, Zordon tells Andros that there's no other choice. You have to do this. And Andros, with one swing of his spiral saber, crushes Zordon's energy tube, killing every member of the Alliance of Evil, except for Divatox, Zed, and Rita, and Astronema, obviously, turning them into normal humans, which is kind of odd. But this was a really tough scene for me to watch. Even when I was rewatching it the first and second time, and it's one of those scenes that every time you watch it, it's hard. If you know what I mean by that, it's a really hard thing to watch. But Zordon is now dead. The Alliance of Evil is gone. Andros lands the Dark Fortress, carrying out Karon's body. She turns back into Karon, and everything is good. KO-35's rebels return to KO-35. Andros, Zane, and Karon head back to Earth with the Space Rangers, supposedly ending the Zordon era, and thus ending what I consider to be the best season in the franchise. So one reason why I do consider In Space the best season in the entire franchise is this freaking plot. It is so constantly going. 43 episodes, and compared to the seasons we've had before, excluding maybe MMPR Season 3, this is the least filler-filled season of the Zordon era. There's only maybe like, what, 6 filler episodes in this entire season? And some of them even have some relevancy. Like this one with, or that are just fun to watch. Like this one with Zane and Astronema kind of having a relationship, like a date or something. That one was pretty funny. And this kind of goes to show what kind of weirdo Zane is. Because he comes in wearing like fancy clothes and a bouquet of flowers, running up to the person that's been trying to kill them the whole season. It's a really goofy episode. And there's a weird episode like that that I get reminded of whenever when I'm pointing at Wes over here. I think you know which episode I'm talking about. There's an episode in Time Force that's kind of similar to this, but it's a lot more funny in Time Force. And I'll talk about that episode when I get to it. With ups and downs, really good moments between Andros and the Rangers, really good moments for TJ, really good moments for Carlos, really good moments for Ashley. Cassie was probably the weakest of the Rangers, and Zane is just Zane. You can't hate him. But I'm going to go over this plot a little bit more before I talk about the characters and villains and my overall thoughts on In Space. The plot is so in-depth. The whole Andros Karon thing is a really good story because it was hinted at the beginning. We saw little waves in and out. Find out that Dark Conda was a part of it. Finds her, loses her again in a dramatic fashion. Psycho Ranger arc comes out of it, and it's a real dramatic finish. Handled 1,000 times better than it was in RPM. I'm just going to say this flat out. I've already reviewed RPM. You can go watch it. I don't like RPM. I've explained this to my friends countless times. And one of the reasons why is because they took this exact story arc, copied and pasted it, but removed all the things that made it interesting. I mean, shoot, there was even a locket involved in RPM. But RPM never had the psychos. It never had Astronema trying to backstab the guy in front of him. Like, Tanaya never tried to backstab Vengex when she got mind controlled or something. There was just a deja vu thing. This was trying to find out who took her and where she was. And it was a pretty fun ride, especially when Andros had to go. It gave Andros and Dark Conda a real nice rivalry on top of it, along with Dark Conda's rivalry with Ecliptor. My opinion, the best finale, Countdown to Destruction in the franchise. A really good ending, real heart-wrenching, sad ending, seeing Zordon perish, but it was necessary. My favorite Red Ranger of all time, going into characters now, Andros, is an interesting Red Ranger for the fact that he's the leader and also the mentor. Well, a leader, and I'll get to TJ in a second. He's basically the mentor role for the season, even though mostly because he knows the way around the galaxy and how being a Space Ranger works. So that's what I mean by leader, as in he's leading them on like a knowledge trip, basically. A mentor leader type thing. Kind of like Professor Xavier. He's a great warrior. but he's also driven by determination. He's trying to find his sister. He's trying to find Zordon. He's trying to save everything. But he also has trust issues, and this goes back to Zane's thing. He doesn't want to lose any more allies. That's why he was so cold and rejecting to the four others when they first met up. Why he was so cold. And then with his relationship with Ashley, and they all sharing the common goal, and then when Zane came back, Andros opened up. Like, he became a lot more friendly, a lot more, like, partyful with the others. And his development was all about, I mean, this guy had pressure all over him. Like, his best friend was dying, his sister was gone, trying to save Zordon and the entire galaxy. This man had everything riding on his shoulders. It was obvious that he was cold and everything, but which one of the reasons why I like him so much, because he develops a lot over the season, and he holds my favorite moment in the entire franchise. Walking onto the Dark Fortress, thinking he killed his sister, while fighting Ecliptor, while having the thing of having to kill Zordon though in the back of his mind, all on top of that, and actually going through with it. Andros basically single-handedly saved the entire universe in one swing of his spiral saber. And he's my favorite Ranger of all time because of it. And he's a great one at that. TJ, remember when I talked about TJ and Turbo? When I said that he was basically like, he was a good leader. He led the charge to destroy the monster at the end of Turbo by just sacrificing the rescue Megazord. He led the charge to save the Turbo Megazord. All of the stuff. He led the charge to save the command center. He's a great leader. And we see it several times here. The plan to kill Psycho Blue, the all blue thing. When Andros brought Corona on, TJ thought he was out of line, and TJ gave the orders. Lock her up. We're doing this carefully. And when he thought it was unsafe, he's the one that took the megaship out. So basically, whenever... Here's how I look at it. Andros was the guiding leader. TJ was the tactical smarts leader. They basically made up for each other's faults. And it worked. Sometimes Andros kind of did stupid things, like walked onto the Dark Fortress behind everybody's backs and bring Astronomer onto the ship. And whenever that happened, TJ was the one that took over for him or put Andros aside and said, this is what we're doing. Like when Andros was gone, TJ was the one that led the charge and Countdown to Destruction. Like, he's the one that said, we are the Power Rangers in front of everybody. He was the one that was talking about the plan during the Countdown to Destruction when Andros left during the campfire. He was the tactical leader. Andros was the guiding leader. So this season, this team basically had two leaders, and I love both of them for it. And it goes to my point that I think TJ is probably one of the most underrated Blue Rangers of all time, next to Theo. And I won't be getting to Theo for a long time, because Jungle Fury's a long ways off from this. Carlos had some doubt moments, like I already established when I was talking about the the episode with Adam in it, where he had some doubt problems through and through, and he managed to overcome those later on, thanks to Adam. And he's a really good character. He's definitely not the stubborn douchebag he was in Turbo. Ashley is basically one of the ones that helped Andros open up, forming a relationship with him over time, kind of being like Andros's bounce-off character. And what I mean by that, I mean character that helped him grow. Cassie was just there to be kind of like Ashley's brain. Kind of like TJ was to Carlo. I mean, TJ was to Andros. I think Cassie was to Ashley. That's kind of how I look at it. She was probably my least favorite Space Ranger. But then again, I didn't really like her in Turbo either. She does have a few good moments, like this one episode where they have to keep their voices down, not to say anything, because the psychos know what their voices sound like. That was a really good episode featuring her in it. And then Zane is Zane. Lovable douchebag. Andros, I mean, Astronomer is a really good character also, being basically like a tragic villain when she finds out that Andros is her brother, she kind of gets sympathetic and all this stuff. And we see that she's a really good person, but she was debating the whole time, am I good, am I evil? And she ends up becoming good, and she ends up gets redeeming moments in Lost Galaxy, and I'm going to go a lot into that when I talk about Lost Galaxy next time. Ecliptor was an interesting villain, being basically the loyal knight to Astronema. He stood up for her more than anything else. When Astronema went with the Rangers after Dark Spectre led them into a trap, he started to protect the Rangers and told the Rangers to take care of her while he fended off the Quantrons. And even at the end, when Andros supposedly knocked out Astronema, he fought Andros because of what he did to her, not because of him trying to stop the plans. He was a loyal knight through and through, and he was a great villain because of it. We're going to get another person like this next season. Bulk Skull. From bullies in MMPR Season 1 to heroes here. They've been through so much, and they were really fun to watch in this season. I'm not really going to talk about Bulk Skull too much. If you want a thing on them, watch Linkara's History of Power. He loves Bulk Skull. I love Bulk Skull too, but I'm watching this for the Rangers, not for Bulk Skull. They're just fun little side characters that get a lot of development stuff, and they're icons of the franchise, like them or not. So, in space, time and time again, I say this. Best season in the franchise. My personal favorite season in the franchise. I can't love this season enough. Best plot in the franchise. Some of the best villains in the franchise. Two of my personal favorite Rangers of all time here. Some of my favorite villains of all time. Ecliptor, Psychos, Astronema. Best ending in the franchise. And one of the best openers to a season in the franchise. I really have no problems with In Space at all. Time and time again, this season continues to entertain me, and it's better than it was when it aired on Fox Kids all those years ago. I love this season. I love this season. I love this season. And as you can see back here when I have the key pack boxes lined up in order of favorites for the seasons I have key packs for, you'll see it. Andros is right there. Yeah, spoilers, in case you... The Carter's not going to be there when Dino Thunders comes out. Ooh, spoilers! I just spoiled Dino Thunder. So, the Zordon era for most people ends there. But I personally think the Zordon era kind of continues on. Very vaguely, but I'll bring up my points why I think this. Now we get into where things start to follow Sentai. Each season a new team comes along. So, this is the season I wouldn't consider this a Zordon era season, but more of a Zordon era wrap-up season. Kind of like a bridge. Final season of the Zordon era, bridge to the post-season Zordon era, kind of finishing up some subplots that were established here, and finished establishing its own plot. Lightspeed is the first season I consider the true post-Zordon era first season. So off to Terra Venture we go. New cast, new story, new villains. Great villains, might I add. We'll go to Terra Venture and take a look at the Power Rangers of the Lost Galaxy.